My name's Owen Smith. This is the Cannabis Digest video review. Please subscribe to the channel. This week we have mandatory minimum sentencing, hemp seed oil, and a note of caution highlighted on the Cannabis Digest weekly video review. Issue 42 of the Cannabis Digest is hot off the press. This is the second edition that I have edited in the graphics and in the layout. So check this out. It's in stores now and around, and it's also on the internet. So if you go to the cannabisdigest.ca, you can read the entire Cannabis Digest issue 42 for free. Dr. Lester Grinspoon writes a note of caution and talks about how serious claims about cannabis's medical use might be more damaging than they do good. And he focuses particularly on Rick Simpson oil, which many people have heard of as hemp oil, which isn't actually made out of hemp plants but high quality medical cannabis. And Dr. Grinspoon looks at cancer as either is it going to be cured or will it maybe come back. And as far as we know, using this oil, it can kill cancer, but whether or not it can cure cancer is still up for debate. So asking difficult questions in a very hotly debated area of interest: can cannabis cure cancer, or is it something which can stop the spread or stop the growth of cancer? So check out this article if you're interested in cannabis oil and cancer. My lawyer Kirk Tusaw brings us the article of Tuesday's mandatory minimum sentencing in Canada. And Kirk is a lawyer, so he knows the legal details of this and gives us a very clear report on what the law is. So mandatory minimum sentencing was brought into Canada in 2012, and it can and is in effect effectively enforcing 6-month penalties in jail for growing 6 to 200 plants. And if any of the aggravating factors are in play, that number increases to 9 months. Aggravating factors are in fact quite vaguely described as places near schools or places frequented by children or people under the age of 18. So what near means and what could really anybody under the age of 18, any places that they could go, all are excluded from the rights of even medical patients, that they may in fact face mandatory minimum jail sentencing under these very strict and somewhat vague laws. So check out Kirk Tusaw's article for this week. Mandatory minimum sentences are not a good idea, and we don't really want them in Canada. Cannabis and the Soma Solution, a book review by Ted Smith. This book is awesome. I've read it myself, as well as Sex, Drugs, Violence in the Bible, which is also written by Chris Bennett. And Chris has been historian for over 20 years in the cannabis movement, and he has found that marijuana was used in religions that go way back into history, and including some which persist up to this very day in India. Chris has looked into particularly the use of a holy drink called the Soma, and connecting it with another drink of another close in proximity group who used the Homa, and has traced both drinks to the source of cannabis in combination with some other plants. So a very interesting book on whether or not cannabis is used in these ritual beverages that go back to time immemorial and still are practiced by some people today. I highly recommend checking out Chris Bennett's books. Great news for the week: marijuana legalized in Oregon, Alaska, and Washington, D.C. And Washington, D.C. was fairly a landslide of 65%, Oregon at 54%, and Alaska at 52%. Each of them have slightly different regulations that they're bringing into play, and you can check out those details on the Cannabis Digest website for this article written by me on the big vote that happened this week in the midterm elections in the United States. So I encourage you to check out those details, but also the federal government, that is the Obama administration in Washington, D.C. I'm curious whether this will have a particular effect on them and how they see legal regulation in their locality where they're working. So check out this. In Canada, we have the Liberals as well, saying that legalization is on the ballot for them if they are voted into Canadian government in 2015. So perhaps Canadians also will have a vote on legalization, not directly, but through the Liberal Party of Canada. It's definitely something to be talking about. Hemp seed oil should be in every cupboard. Diane Walsh gives us an article this week about the nutritional benefits of hemp. And if you remember last week on the industrial benefits of hemp, there's just so much good stuff that can come out of this plant. The seed, when it's pressed, cold pressed, can provide the body with a perfect balance of omega-369 fatty acids, which are essential for our health and well-being. So if you have hemp seed in your local grocery store, I suggest getting some oil that you can use. It's something that you can't put on a high heat, but you can use it on low heat baking goods and also for salad dressings and other things like that. So entirely encouraged to get this into your diet, as hemp is great in so many ways. That's it for this week. My name is Owen Smith. This has been the Cannabis Digest weekly review, and I hope to see you again next week. Please comment on any of the articles that I've mentioned and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. This is November 1st week, and until next week, may your cannabis digest.